Hello, welcome back to another one of my ramblings about movie. And today we'll be talking about the Wolverine movie. Um, but before we talk about the movie I saw over the last weekend, we're gonna talk a little bit about uh, Wolverine Origin, the first Wolverine movie. It would be a good comparison, but um, my thought on Wolverine Origins was that it started out okay. Um, I never liked that actor that played Logan's brother. I can't pronounce his name, Liv Schreiber. I butcher it, but for some reason I always had and have a problem with that actor. So I just did like the portrayal of the character, Sabretooth. For some reason, it just didn't work for me. Um, he was nasty enough in the movie, but it's just my personal bias. As far as the casting, I thought the casting was fairly decent. Lynn Collins, I think that's her name, um, is cast as Silver Fox, love interest of Logan in the movie. She's beautiful. She should be in a lot more movies, and the only other movie that I saw her or I can remember is John Carter's. She played the princess in John Carter, the movie. Um, and then probably one of the best casting that fit really well was Ryan Reynolds. I am never a big fan of Deadpool. Uh, in fact, when Deadpool first was introduced, I hated that character because it was just my personal negative bias with Rob Liefeld. But as Deadpool progressed through the Marvel universe, I find him more interesting. I no longer hate him, but I do think he's overexposed. Okay, so the include of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, I think was spot on. I think that was good casting because that is his personality, that smart ass, wise cracking, non-stop talking kind of character. So I like that. But as far as the movie is concerned, I think for the most part, the special effect and action scene was weak. It looked almost like for TV movie for TV made kind of thing. It looked boring. Um, when as far as the movie, it went. The movie started out about a B for me. It was okay, not so great action, bad special effect. So it was a B, and then it hit a bumpy ride once they introduced Gambit. It went from a B to B minus C plus range because I can tell you if there is one or two characters that I cannot stand in the X-Men mutant universe is Gambit. I never liked Gambit, not from the day one. I detested his skills, his costume, everything about him. I just didn't care for that character whatsoever. So I felt the inclusion of Gambit and then the Blob. There was a whole lot of little secondary characters that they throw in that really have no room in the movie. It's just a waste of time, waste of money, waste of characters, waste of screen time to include those characters. But it makes no sense for me to include Gambit in this movie, regardless if I like Gambit or not. I thought the inclusion of that character was just complete waste. So that is where the movie started to fall apart for me. Um, and then the last 10 minutes of the movie is where it went from B minus C plus to a C minus D plus range. Okay, so it went from 2.5 star all the way down to 1.5 out of 4 star, maybe 2 out of 4 star, but that's about as high as I can give it. What happened is once they redo Deadpool and reintroduce him with the face, basically they saw his mouth, so now Deadpool does not talk anymore. It just make no sense to me. It just that's not the Deadpool that everybody love. It makes zero sense on how they reimagine, reintroduce, reboot Deadpool at the end of the movie, and then when Wolverine gets shot with the adamantium bullet, that's just, I don't know. It like I said, the last 10 minutes of that movie was head scratching for me, because I sat there at the movie theater and just like, are they serious? Is this how they're gonna end this movie? It was going okay, and now you have to ruin it with a stupid ending. Okay, so that's my view on Wolverine Origins. Now, I have higher expectation for this movie based on the trailers that I saw. The trailers of this movie look a lot better, and for sure, this is the non-spoiler part of my review. Okay, at the end, I will warn everyone that the next few minutes might contain some spoilers, but for now, it's non-spoiler review. What I can say about this movie is, for sure, it's my favorite Wolverine depiction in a movie to date. Okay, after all the 3 X-Men movies and then the Wolverine movie, this one is the first time where I felt that they truly depict a good representation of what Wolverine should be. Up until this point, up until this movie, I felt that they didn't really do a very good job. Casting aside, if Hugh Jackman is too tall, too pretty, too handsome, that's beside the point. But as far as the way he acts, it's the way they wrote how he behaved, how he fight, how he talked in all the previous movies, that I think was not good enough for me. But for this movie, I felt good about how they depicted him. Granted that they want the PG-13 rating so that they can draw in more young kids to see the movie. That may be my only gripe, is this movie is very violent. It depicts the true nature of true persona of Wolverine. He was violent, he was nasty. There's a whole lot of slicing and dicing in this movie. I think there's more slicing and dicing in this movie than the previous 4 appearances of Wolverine combined. I think the fight scene was very well done. I thought the casting was very well done. I think the only weak casting or weak character would be Mariko, the Japanese actress that was cast for that. I just didn't feel the chemistry between her and Logan. But the casting of Yukio is really spot on. That character, she's awesome. I think the scene that she's in, her fighting, her sword handling was pretty great. All the ninja, I think all the fighting scene was fantastic. So overall, I like to say that I walked out of the movie theater feeling relief, because I was very concerned that this movie is gonna disappoint me somehow, but it did not for the most part. There are flaws to it, no doubt, just like in any movies, but overall I walked out with a relief feeling and content. For the first time I was fairly happy with how they depict Wolverine. So I think if I had to rate it, I probably give it a strong at least 2.5 star, maybe close to 3 star. Not quite 3 star, but I would give it at least 2 and 3/4 star, compared to maybe 1.5 to below 2 for the first uh, Wolverine movie. Okay, so good. Okay, now we are going to move on to the part of the review that will contain some spoilers. So if you do not want to see this part, haven't seen the movie, thank you for watching. Until next time. Okay, for this movie, I thought the first uh, 20 minutes was pretty good. We're talking about the scenes in the prison camp. Perhaps one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Wolverine was in the well with the Japanese soldier, and he was covering him up, and the fireball engulfed them, and they show him stood up after, and his flesh was melting away because he was basically a severe burn victim. Hair, everything was all gone. His scalp was all bubbly, his face all burnt off. And then slowly his body regenerated and he healed right in front of the Japanese soldier. When I saw that scene, I was very happy of how they did it. It was very well done. But the very first thing that crossed my mind was the scene in X-Men 3. For those that have seen that movie, if you remember near the end when the Dark Phoenix was unleashing her power and Logan was struggling to get to her and eventually kill her with his claw. If you remember that scene, his flesh on his chest was being peeled off from Jean's power, but yet his from neck up it was perfect. Okay, his hair, eyebrows, everything, beard, it was silly. Okay, I hated that scene. I had a problem with that scene when I saw X-Men 3, but now that I saw this movie, I have a bigger problem with that scene than before, because now I reminded how stupid it was when I first saw that scene. It didn't make sense, and now this was the right way to do that scene if it was done right. But it still won't save X-Men 3. The rest of the movie is still problematic. Anyhow, and then after the concentration, well, the prison camp scenes, I thought it was kind of neat to see the scenes in the mountain with Logan with the beard and the bear. It's almost like the first few pages of the Frank Miller limited series issue #1. It was maybe they did that as a nod for Frank Miller. But when I saw those 10 minutes, it reminded me of the first few pages of the Frank Miller comic books. As far as casting of this movie, I thought it was fairly well done. I think the only weak part is the actress that portrayed Mariko. I thought she was the weakest link, as well as Viper. I didn't care for Viper in the comic books, so I wish they could have done something else, and maybe they need to throw in Viper as eye candy for the guys because she was pretty, but forget about beyond being good looking. Her costume was kind of silly. Her involvement in the whole thing was kind of silly. It really didn't make any sense for me. They could have excluded her, in my opinion, and rewrite her role to be just another scientist and not some baddie. But Yukio was pretty cool. She's pretty cool, and her fighting scene was pretty good. I have to say, I was very happy with this movie in regard to the depict of Logan and Wolverine. This movie did the best job out of all the previous movie. I felt that in all the previous appearance of Wolverine, the character was not utilized correctly. This movie finally show the nastiness of Wolverine that we expect from him. He was mean, he was nasty, he was bloody, uh, and for the sake of rating in PG-13, they took out just about all the blood that you can see, but there are plenty of violence there. I think there were more slicing and dicing in this movie than all the previous 4 or 5 appearances of Wolverine. Okay, all of it. He was just. There was plenty of action. There is no shortage of action, and they were good action for the most part. The train scene, as you can see in the preview, that was pretty badass. That was pretty cool. Definitely a lot of fun to watch the fight on the speedy train scenes. The the problem I have with some of the scenes would be, I understand the inclusion of Jean Grey, but my problem with that was I never liked the actress. I like the actress that portrayed Jean Grey. I just didn't like her portraying Jean Grey. I have mentioned this before in the X-Men video review, in that I thought that was one of the worst miscast role in the X-Men movie. She was not the right person to play Jean Grey. So in this movie, she did appear a few times because it basically centered around the psyche of Logan as he struggled over her death, as well as reconciling, what he wanted to do with his life and whatever guilt he felt in killing her. So in that, so I didn't like those scenes when she was in it, more so because I just didn't like the actress that played that role for that role, not because it was any bad scenes or bad part of the movie. The problem I had with was, of course, Viper is a small problem, and then the Silver Samurai. Once again, I think if you was expecting something different as far as the Silver Samurai, then don't be surprised, right? Because that's Hollywood. Hollywood tend to take things from comic books and then somehow reimagine it and reboot it into something different. It's not the first time. Same thing with the Mandarin. They use the name Mandarin, but then it was something completely not related to the Mandarin in the comic book. Same thing with the Silver Samurai. I don't have a problem with that. I have a slight problem with the fight scenes with the Silver Samurai. I felt the fight scene with the Silver Samurai was mostly the worst fighting scene of the movie, because it was mostly CGI, if not all CGI, and it just didn't look smooth, or it just didn't look good to me. And of course, the whole cutting off of the claw thing. I kind of cringed a little bit when I saw that, but it's not a bad thing. But it did cringe, give me a cringe moment at the movie. But overall, like I said, I walked out of there, with only a few complaints. I thought the chemistry between the Japanese actress and Hugh Jackman just didn't work for me. And the casting of Viper and the inclusion of Viper was kind of weak, and then the fight scenes with the Silver Samurai was kind of weak. But overall, I gave it a good rating, and I think it likely will satisfy a lot of Wolverine fan out there, because this is a Wolverine that should have been portrayed in the previous 4 appearances. Um, Now, if you know, like I did, I stayed to watch the extra scenes, the Easter egg that lead into the Days of Future Past. I have heard, now that I saw the movie and watched a lot of reviews on YouTube, I'm shocked at the excitement that people have over that Easter egg. I watched it, I saw it, so was it bad? Good? No, it was okay. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, I didn't see the scenes and say, wow, wow, no. Whenever I see people that just like just bonk out on something, I'm like, really? Is that exciting? So, if you watch the movie and stay for the extra maybe 3 minutes after the credit, you will see a scene where, my view of that scene is that it was neat, yes. Was it awesome? Make me want to jump out of my seat and want to see Days of Future Past? No, not by a long shot. I will go see X-Men, and I will pray that the Sentinel does not look like crap. Okay, I have seen a few pictures, and I'm not all that jazzed up about the Sentinel now that I see what they're doing with the armor and the body. But we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't look kooky on the screen. But anyhow, time for me to go. I hope you enjoy the movie as much as I did. Okay.